The woman before me is named Sister G. She is a well-known wealthy lady. Due to an accident, she was stranded on a deserted island with a fisherman. He, hungry and desperate, proposed offering $10,000 to buy a sea fish the fisherman had just caught. But on the deserted island, food is the most fundamental necessity for survival. Money here is worthless. The fisherman decisively refused his request. However, he proposed to the wealthy lady that to obtain food, she must become his slave. The wealthy lady angrily resisted, but the fisherman slapped her back. Now he finally became obedient. The wealthy lady seemed to realize her situation. Not only did she wash the man's clothes, she also obediently walked up to him and said, "Master, it is my honor to serve you." The man looked very pleased. He couldn't imagine that he could live such a fairy-like life. Just a few days ago, the two were complete strangers who never crossed paths. The wealthy lady grew up in a noble family. Her father is the boss of a chain enterprise. You could say she had everything she wanted. So she developed a spoiled and domineering personality that looks down on others. Meanwhile, our male lead, Brother Fisher, is a poor guy. Usually, besides fishing and selling fish, he does odd jobs everywhere to make ends meet. One day, the husband, to please the wealthy lady, hauled a whole cruise ship to take her out to sea for fun. But before boarding, the wealthy lady complained that the cruise ship was too shabby. The husband hurriedly assured her that this time he planned to try something new. Only then did the wealthy lady reluctantly board the cruise ship. After boarding, he immediately asked the male lead working part-time here if there was a gym on the ship, but the male lead brought over a spinning bike instead. Seeing his dissatisfied expression, the male lead had to bring a jump rope. Obviously, the ship lacked even the basics. Because of this, the male lead received a scolding from the wealthy lady. The two thus became enemies. The captain ordered the male lead to serve the wealthy lady while swimming in the sea. But the wealthy lady said the seawater was too dirty. Only inferior people like the male lead would think of swimming in the sea all day. Back on the ship, she treated the male lead as her slave again, asking him to serve tea and water. Her cold gaze didn't see him as a human. On the deck, the wealthy lady and two of her best friends were sunbathing. Their radiant beauty made some crew members dazzle, but the wealthy lady didn't care at all, because in her eyes, these inferior people were no different from animals. During meals, the wealthy lady continued to pick fights. She said today's fish wasn't fresh at all. The male lead was furious. He dumped all the food over her head. This fish was just caught by him. How could it be not fresh? Facing this unreasonable woman, the male lead made a crazy decision. He threw her directly into the sea, then patted his chest and said, "From now on, I call the shots here." But the next second, the male lead woke up. The wealthy lady was furiously shouting at him. Turns out it was just his hallucination. It seems he already despises this woman deeply. But to earn money, the male lead endured it, and took the food inside to exchange for another portion. The next day, the wealthy lady slept until the afternoon, only to find her companions had already gone out to sea for fun. So she ordered the male lead to take her there immediately. But because of the wind, the male lead feared encountering bad weather and didn't agree. Unexpectedly, the wealthy lady was unreasonable, saying that if he didn't agree, he would lose his job. Reluctantly, the male lead had to pilot the inflatable boat to take her to the destination. But midway, the inflatable boat suddenly lost an oar, and the two were stranded on the boat. The wealthy lady ordered him to fix the malfunction immediately. The male lead had no choice but to comply. But no matter how hard he tried, the little boat remained still. Soon, the sun began to set. The temperature over the sea dropped sharply. The two trembled through the night. Waking up the next morning, seeing that no one had come to rescue them yet, the male lead decided to catch some food to ensure that they wouldn't starve or die of thirst before being rescued. He finally managed to catch a small fish, but the wealthy lady just sniffed it and threw it into the sea. Because it wasn't wrapped in rice balls, she wouldn't eat such disgusting raw food. The male lead looked speechless. "You don't want to eat it? You can give it to me." But the wealthy lady had no idea how precious a small fish was in this environment. Just then, a cruise ship appeared in the distance. In a panic, the wealthy lady prepared to fire the flare gun, but she had no idea how to use it. The male lead tried to take it from her. In the chaos, they argued and accidentally shot through the kayak. Fortunately, one section didn't leak air. The two could only lie on it, drifting on the sea for the night. The next morning, they woke up, and the wealthy lady saw a small island. She quickly paddled toward the shore. She thought she was finally rescued, and arrogantly blamed the male lead for everything. She declared that she would sue him with a lawyer. But after going around the island, she realized it was a deserted, uninhabited island. Now it was the male lead's turn to lose his temper. He had had enough of this woman. So, he yelled at her, and the two parted ways. After separating, the male lead began to survive on the island. He first gathered useful discarded items from the shore, then found a freshwater source at the cliff, and used homemade tools to catch fish from the sea. Finally, he found an abandoned wooden hut. Life could be said to be quite enjoyable, but the wealthy lady had it much worse. She couldn't do anything right. She barely found a sea urchin on the shore, but because it was too prickly, she didn't know how to open it and threw it away. Watching the male lead enjoy his food, the hungry wealthy lady offered $10,000 to buy a small fish. But this was such a great opportunity for revenge. The male lead didn't want to miss it, so he immediately rejected her, and he proposed that if she wanted food, she had to be his slave. He wanted to swap their roles. Let this arrogant woman feel what it's like to be ordered around. At first, the wealthy lady resisted, but after being slapped several times by the male lead, she seemed to accept the reality. She became obedient. Then, she washed his clothes as requested, folded them neatly, and delivered them to him. Only when the male lead was satisfied would he reward her with a bit of food. In the evening, the male lead returned to his little hut, while the wealthy lady was turned away. After all, a slave can't live with their master. At this moment, their relationship had completely changed. To get food, the wealthy lady had to lower herself and take care of the male lead's daily needs. The male lead, every day besides eating, would lie on the beach enjoying her service. When bored, he would ask her to perform a dance for entertainment. For this long-term meal ticket, the wealthy lady didn't dare refuse. She could only silently endure. Her arrogance was being gradually worn away. The more arrogant she had been before, the more miserable she was now. Whenever this happened, the male lead would feel a sense of satisfaction. Time passed like this. Seeing that the rescue team still hadn't arrived, the male lead was no longer content with the status quo. After all, a man and a woman were stuck on a deserted island. Life was dull and tasteless. There were no legal restrictions. He felt like he should do something. So, he boldly began to have improper thoughts about the wealthy lady. Fortunately, the wealthy lady struggled and resisted. The male lead gradually calmed down. Afterwards, the male lead regretted his actions. He no longer thought of torturing the wealthy lady. The two of them got along peacefully. In their free time, he would even take the wealthy lady to fish in the sea. The male lead would catch the fish, while the wealthy lady cleaned the catch. In their free time, he would even take the wealthy lady to fish in the sea. The male lead would catch the fish, while the wealthy lady cleaned the fishing area. Slowly, their relationship began to change subtly. From bickering enemies upon meeting, they became partners who shared everything. At night, the male lead even made space in his little hut for them to sleep together. Under the warmth of love, the wealthy lady gradually adapted to life here. One day, while gathering firewood outside, the wealthy lady accidentally found a cruise ship. She was about to scream for help, but after thinking for a moment, she hid again. Because being with the male lead made her feel an unprecedented joy. She suddenly didn't want to leave here, because she knew that once she returned to the real world, the relationship with the male lead would surely fade away. So, she kept everything a secret and continued living her life with the male lead, fishing by day and enjoying a warm, romantic life by night. Sometimes, the wealthy lady didn't know if she was bewitched, so she tentatively asked the male lead, "If you met a young and beautiful girl, would you change your mind?" The male lead said nothing, but gave her a big hug. One morning, the two woke up from their sleep, and the cruise ship appeared again. The male lead quickly got up, wanting to call for help, but the wealthy lady stopped him. She begged the male lead not to call for rescue, because she didn't want to return to the real world, and she didn't want to face her loveless husband. But the male lead had his own worries. He feared that the wealthy lady didn't truly love him, because if she loved him, it wouldn't matter where they were. He was also worried that they might die here. After all, life isn't a movie. Difficulties would surely come their way in the future. So, he broke free from the wealthy lady and swam toward the cruise ship. Soon, they were rescued, but neither of them was happy. Soon after, the wealthy lady's husband arrived. He hugged the wealthy lady and asked after her, but there was no spark in his eyes. When he saw the male lead approach, the wealthy lady's husband quickly said he would give him a large sum of money to thank him for saving his wife. But the male lead said nothing and coldly walked away. Soon after, a lawyer sent by the wealthy husband came to the male lead. He said he had a package of money to express his thanks, but the male lead threw both the lawyer and the package out. He then spent all his savings to buy a diamond ring and called the wealthy lady. On the phone, he expressed how much he missed her. The feeling of loving someone but not being able to meet. It tormented him day and night. At this moment, her husband suddenly walked over. The wealthy lady hurriedly hung up the phone and told the male lead, "Anything, you can leave a message at the front desk." The next morning, the male lead entrusted the front desk to deliver a letter to the wealthy lady. The letter said, "At 9 a.m. today, I'll be waiting for you at Pier 22. They would leave together and stay forever." The male lead even placed the diamond ring inside. But just as the front desk was about to deliver the letter, her husband appeared again. The front desk understood everything, so they gave up. They resolved a crisis for the wealthy lady. But what she didn't know was, her husband had seen the letter in the corner. On the return flight, the wealthy lady was very sad. She thought the male lead lacked the courage to face this relationship. She wished so much that he would appear now. But she didn't know. The male lead was also anxiously waiting at the pier. Before leaving, her husband handed her a bill, telling her to give it to the receptionist as a tip. The wealthy lady didn't think twice and handed it over. She didn't notice. There was a letter under the bill. The receptionist saw it and delivered it according to the letter's instructions. The male lead opened it, and inside was the diamond ring he had prepared for the wealthy lady. Now it had returned to his hands. He couldn't believe she planned to give up on this relationship. So, he asked the receptionist for news. When he learned it had been delivered by her husband, the male lead decisively chased after her. But it was too late. Two people from different worlds never made it together in the end. This film is about how Jia, the wonderful enemies. This movie, the plot is actually very attractive. One is a poor young man, and the other is a sexy wealthy lady. Director Guy Ritchie brought together two people with completely different backgrounds. Through a disaster on a deserted island, he explored love, human nature, and the sins of capital, all in one go. So here's the question. If your girlfriend is a wealthy lady, would you be willing to give up everything and live an isolated life with her?